Good evening. On behalf of the governing Good evening. On behalf of the governing body of the City of Passaic, we welcome you to the February 7th, 2023 City Council meeting. In accordance with Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by a resolution of the Municipal Council adopted on June 21st, 2022, setting forth the schedule of regular meetings for the year 2022-2023. Said notice was published and posted on the City Hall Bulletin Board by the Office of the City Clerk. Please be further advised, due to COVID-19, this meeting will be in person and virtual stream via Zoom. Public notice and instructions for this meeting was published in the Herald News and posted on January 27, 2023, on the City of Passaic website, www.cityofpassaic.com. Council agendas. Instructions are also available on the last page of this agenda. Please be guided accordingly.
Roll call, please, ma'am.
Councilman Love,
Present.
Councilman Mello,
Present.
Councilman Schwartz,
Present.
Councilman Garcia,
Present.
and Council President Scher.
Present. Councilman Schwartz, we understand you have COVID, and we are so thankful for your joining with us on this
Zoom.
Zoom. Shall we all please rise for the benediction?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to meet tonight. Lord, we present to you this agenda that is set before us, but at the same time, Lord, we come to you tonight, Lord, with heavy hearts, as we see the world experiencing so much pain, Heavenly Father, and we ask that you provide comfort, Lord, to all those countries, Lord, those people that are experiencing pain. In your beloved name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone in the audience here at City Hall, as well as at home if you're listening. We thank you for your listening and your participation in the meeting a little bit later. A few notes. Number one, if you would like to get a copy of the agenda, it is available to you on the internet at the city's website. Not only do you have the availability of getting tonight's agenda, but you can also review all bills, resolutions, announcements, etc., that the council has given, as well as all of the background information which the council is given by the administration, by the mayor and his administration. We ask, if you are in communication with us, to please make sure that your cell phones are off or vibrate, and we appreciate you joining with us. We're up to Roman numeral 5 on our agenda: minutes of November 10, 2023, and December 6 and December 19. These are all city council meetings. Are there any changes necessary to the minutes as presented by the clerk to the council? Seeing no lights at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept the minutes?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the minutes of November 10, December 6, and December 19, 2022. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk, Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We're up to Roman numeral 6 on our agenda: hearing of citizens. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-1 et sec, the council opens every public meeting for comments of the public. However, in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12,
Mayor's on.
very good. Mayor, you're on the Zoom call.
Yes.
Yes. Very good. Thank you, sir. Continuing, if I may, however, in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12, nothing in this act shall be construed to limit the discretion of a public body to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation at any meeting. Therefore, the City Council will not entertain any comments from persons who communicate obscene material, make statements which are considered bias, intimidation, in which any person attempts to intimidate any individual or group because of race, color, religion, handicap, sexual orientation, or ethnicity, or makes personally offensive or abusive, defamatory, or profane comments intending to harass or speak any offensive or abusive language. The person who makes these statements will relinquish their allotted 5 minutes for public discussion. If you would like to be in communication with the council during our section on ordinances, and of course right now with the hearing of citizens, we ask you to please call us at 929-436-2866. That number is 929-436-2866. And enter the meeting ID number 898-9261-2341. That's 898-9261-12341. And please press *9 to indicate that you would like to speak. Again, those numbers to call in, 929-436-2866, and enter ID number 898-9261-2341, *9. I'm going to, with the council's permission, I skipped number 4 by mistake, the mayor's update. Mayor, I hope you don't mind if we can call on you, and after your remarks, we'll go into the hearing of citizens.
No problem. I join with my colleagues on the city council in echoing the sentiment shared by Councilwoman Mello in our hearts and prayers going out to all those impacted by the recent tragedies and occurrences around the globe. Thank you, Council President. As you can see, I am via Zoom. And today is my 11-year-old's birthday. He was 10 yesterday. Today is 11, so I have promised to the amusement park, and it's been amusing for everyone but me. But everyone knows what that's like with a parent. I do want to share in the beginning of this update, we had 2 firefighters that have retired this week. Firefighter Sean Allen, who's also the president of the Passaic NAACP. We have both Councilman Love and our business administrator, Rick Fernandez, who were present at the retirement activities at the West Side Fire Station. And we want to wish him the very best on his retirement and hope that he continues to serve in other capacities in our area. I believe he was recently named to one of the volunteer boards on a municipal government where he lives. And we're very excited and proud of him and thankful for his 28 years of service. I believe it was 28 years, Dr. Love, Councilman Love, it was 28 years of service. Also, we had Talent Chief Calaviti. We had Calaviti. Is that correct, business administrator? I believe he retired as well.
That is correct, sir.
Yes, and I was present there. The reason why I wanted to make that distinction and ask the business administrator, Council President, firefighter Calaviti, who actually rose through the ranks in leadership and has served our city for many years, shared with me, and I believe his father was the fire chief in our neighboring municipality of Clifton. His uncle was a firefighter, and I think Councilman Monk knows this well. For the last 52 years, there has always been a firefighter Calaviti serving in our city. This is the very first time that we will not have a Calaviti on our fire department. So we wish him and his family the very best, and we thank them for the amazing and wonderful years of service, not just in the city of Passaic, but to our county, our state, and to this great nation. Council President, I mentioned that Sean Allen, the retiring firefighter, was also the president of the NAACP. This weekend, we had an NAACP African-American flag-raising ceremony right here at City Hall. It was frigid temperatures, feeling below 0 degrees, but present was Councilman Love, Councilwoman Mello, on this Saturday. Obviously, the presence and well wishes of our council president, Councilman Gary Scher, our assemblyman as well, our Councilman Chaim Monk, Daniel Schwartz, Joe Garcia. And also present was president of the Board of Education, Danny Rodriguez, and vice president, Judith Sanchez, and many others in the community that joined together in acknowledging and honoring this wonderful and marvelous community, the raising of the African-American flag, which represents and symbolizes a great deal of just sacrifice contributions that have shaped our nation and our world, a legacy that continues today of an amazing people. And I believe I mentioned, but Dr. Love was there as well and spoke on behalf of our communities and all of the elected officials. I would also like to update that recently in the newspaper, many will have seen that the second floor to the brand new Veterans Center is already up. The new VFW, a $2 million building. And I know we had shared a little bit about that before, but I want to share that the newest information for the community to be aware of is that we're opening up opportunities working together with the VFW, Habitat for Humanity, and the city of Passaic for volunteers. If individuals are interested in volunteering, if you have worked with Habitat for Humanity before in order to work on homes for families, know that there will be opportunities to volunteer in February and March. Wednesdays in the month of February, City Hall employees will be volunteering a few hours. I named the initiative Dress Down and Build Up Wednesdays. You're allowed to dress down, but only for the purpose of building up in our community. And we know that the VFW have served so many individuals over the years. If you do not know how to work on a home, if you have no carpentry skills, perhaps you can drive down Passaic Avenue on a Sunday or a Wednesday or Thursday evening and catch our council president wearing a flannel, much like this one, and working on the front lawn or the home. Then you can pick up some tips I have. During this last week, we have also celebrated Chinese New Year. I would like to thank Mr. Yang, who took the time to come to City Hall and explain Chinese New Year, the year of the rabbit, significance of it, and as well as shared with us how to properly make tea. Council President, you may be familiar with the English idiom cold shoulder, where we learned something similar to that story. The cold shoulder was often individuals who came to stay at your home were given lamb. But when they overstayed their welcome, they were given a piece of a cold shoulder of lamb to let them know you have overstayed your welcome. Well, we learned in Oriental culture or Asian culture that when you give tea, you are never to fill the cup. You give a little bit of tea, and he demonstrated this, the process itself and all of the etiquette around it. But he said, you never fill the cup because it implies that people want more. But if you feel they have overstayed their welcome, you fill the cup to the top, and that lets them know that was your last cup of tea. So if ever any of you receive too much tea at the mayor's office, you know that it is time to leave, most likely at the business administrator's office. Council President and members of the City Council, also wanted to share that after having conversations with North Jersey Federal Credit Union, we are close to having a new ATM machine placed outside of City Hall at the front, right across from WIC, which would be right next to our city green truck that provides food opportunities, nutritious options for families every Friday, as well as we would continue in providing cash opportunities for those who have to pay for services or programs within the city. We're very excited for this potential partnership, being that there is no physical presence right now of this bank. They began as a teachers union bank for teachers union here in Passaic County. And they have obviously evolved. Many police officers, nurses, educators utilize this bank, and we are excited at no cost to the city to provide space in front of City Hall. We are still exploring that option, but we believe and we're optimistic that that will come to fruition very quickly. And we believe this adds a resource, especially to many communities who walk past this area. Also, Council President and members of the City Council, I would like to share with you a quick update on Dignity House. We have been at full capacity during the season, as you can imagine, with the drastic drop in temperature. However, through partnerships with our school, we would like to obviously highlight School 19 that has done a sock drive and a scarf drive for the homeless and those who have partnered with us to provide food during this time, as well as those who have assisted us sending messages as to where we may find individuals that do not have a place to stay. We remind the public that though we cannot force individuals off the street, we want to make sure that the option is always available and there is knowledge of this option for all those. However, during these extreme and frigid temperature conditions, Council President, this weekend, through order of my office as mayor, we had emergency responders offer individuals the opportunity to come off the street, or we took them to the hospital. We did not feel that and I'll be very candid, I did not feel that temperatures were appropriate to leave people on the street. We have done this before. And obviously, though government is intended to provide an important and secure safety net for those who are often vulnerable in these conditions, Our Dignity House is a resource center intended for temporary assistance and wraparound services. I often share we provide a safety net, but government safety net was never intended to become a comfortable hammock at the circus or at entertainment events. When you see those amazing tight walk individuals, when they fall on the net, you never see one take out a pillow and lay down. It's intended to catch you, help you get back up off your feet. Well, often it is the case that with our resources, we provide that safety net, but also we want people to know that we're here to help you with any services, any resources that you need, because we want you to get every help possible to come off the streets. But sometimes, especially, again, I'll reiterate, in conditions this severe, we do not wait. We bring the people off the street. Council President, I also wanted to share that this week, me and the business administrator met with the new business administrator of the county, Mr. Matt Jordan. We discussed future initiatives and partnerships with the county, including the $6 million that will unite Pulaski and Dundee Island, the East Monroe project, the Riverfront Park, right by our senior site, infrastructure projects, Passaic County roads that will be paved, a quicker responses from the county on certain services, and partnerships in terms of permits and ensuring that those lines of communication continue. I'm very encouraged about the new business administrator and his willingness to make sure to work with our city council. On that note, we also met with the chair of the NJTPA, the New Jersey Transportation and Port Authority Agency, Mr. John Bartlett, commissioner on the Board of Commissioners for the county, to discuss future projects. Our brand new $3 million bus terminal that will go on Passaic Ave with state-of-the-art features like up-to-date second-to-second scheduling for buses and different opportunities for apps. I also wanted to share that we recently had a town hall outreach program and workshop here in the city of Passaic at the United Puerto Rican Council with my colleague counterpart in Newark, the largest city in the state, Mr. Ross Baraka, Mayor Ross Baraka, along with Assemblywoman, that is your colleague, Council President, your other role as Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter, as well as Commissioner T.J. Best, President of the Board of Education, Danny Rodriguez, and others. And we were able to discuss affordable housing, how to better communicate to the public and the residents, future opportunities, work opportunities, employment and training and trades, as well as lines of communication, quality of life issues, and public safety initiatives. It was an extremely productive and exciting opportunity to share ideas and to continue collaborating with my counterparts from other municipalities, as we have committed always to work together in partnership to grow and benefit all of our communities. Lastly, well, perhaps second to lastly, Council President, I wanted to share that I'm working on an initiative with a few banks to expand the program in terms of first-time home buyers in order to share a new opportunity, rent to buy program, being able to convert your subsidized rent into a mortgage voucher. Council President, what that means is if someone is receiving subsidized rental assistance, a voucher, and they're living in that property for 30 years, at the end of the 30 years, that property is not theirs. However, with this new opportunity, and what I needed was a bank that would cooperate. I presently have two banks that have agreed after meeting with their CEOs personally. And I've explained to them my vision for the city. They have agreed to pilot the program in the city of Passaic. What this would allow is those vouchers would be accepted as a mortgage voucher. And over the life of their time with the property, they will end up owning the property. It's an exciting initiative for this reason. I truly believe that individuals should not be under subsidized rent forever. Our goal is to get you to become a property owner, to open up that opportunity for someone else who is in need. And also, owning property provides for generational wealth, upward economic and social mobility. This gives you an opportunity to take responsibility for your property and to pass something on to your kids. So we're very excited. We will be sharing more information with the City Council. Now, truly, lastly, I would like to wish a special happy birthday to our board president in the city of Passaic, Mr. Danny Rodriguez, as well as our former Councilman Maritza Colon Montañez, who will be celebrating their birthday this week. Council President, that is the extent and the end of my updates.
Mayor, thank you so very much. Quick question, if you don't mind, and then
Sure.
I'll ask members of the council. You mentioned towards the end of your presentation this modified home buyer program. Is this something that would necessarily go to the state? Is this something which can be implemented locally? Did
It
the
can be.
members from the banking community give you any idea?
Yes, Council President, this can be implemented locally. So I made a presentation last year at the League of Municipalities encouraging in terms of expanding opportunity for affordable housing. I had shared at the League of Municipality with my opportunity to present with many colleagues on the panel. I told them that I had explored this option and thought that it would be extremely intriguing and an innovative thing to present in our community. So I researched it and realized that all you really needed was a cooperative bank. If a bank would be willing to receive it through our existing first-time homebuyers program, we can make the connection locally. Now, obviously, in the research, I have found that this has been done around the nation, and I share with individuals that I spend many hours trying to research different resources, opportunities, and initiatives around the nations, those that I've worked. And then when I juxtapose those to our communities, I make sure that it's comparative, especially with our demographics, our population, the amount of housing that's available. And I found that there are many municipalities similar to ours that have introduced this around the nation. So I was extremely excited. But as to your specific question, yes, it can be implemented. In fact, after my presentation in the League of Municipality, one of the individuals on the panel, and he was leading the panel, was Mayor Ross Baraka, who said he really liked the program. He was able to implement it himself. So we're very excited. He said he was very excited about the presentation. And it was one of the reasons why he welcomed me and actually invited me to be part of his Unity tour here in the city, because we shared in that panel. I had given them all the information on the panel about how it would be implemented. But again, as to your question, yes, it can be implemented locally. All you need is a cooperative bank, which I have two. And then I've already connected them through our community development, and they provide the opportunities of eligible individuals. We do not select individuals ourselves. It is done appropriately through income eligibility and those who are most likely to be able to sustain a long-term contract and relationship with the bank. In certain cases, there may be a difference of the pay, and sometimes it allows for an individual to pay additional funds, but again, that is done through the bank.
This is, Mayor, this is excellent. I know that on the state level, these conversations are reflecting exactly what you had spoken about, and that is how do we provide equity to, speaking very candidly, to individuals of color who have been deprived of that kind of continuity and passing down from one generation to the next. And we've seen it, its economic issues and its problems. And this is extraordinarily exciting to hear about.
Council President, I'm excited to tell you that perhaps in the next 2 weeks, we will be able to announce our very first committed bank to convert the voucher. We are that far along, and then I'll make sure to include the council in all the information.
Excellent. Questions from members of the council for the mayor?
No.
Very good. Mayor, thank you so very much. And I know you're going to stand by on Zoom, and we appreciate that, sir. Councilman Schwartz, I see you. Did you have any comments, sir?
No.
Very good. Thank you. Susie, I read the statement on the hearing of citizens. Do I need to say it again? Thank you very much. Is there a motion, please, to open hearing of citizens, please?
Move it.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Shields.
Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm told that I don't need to read the entirety of the hearing of citizen statement, but let me repeat, if I may, the numbers if you're interested in calling into the council at this time. The number, please, is 929-436-2866. Enter the meeting ID number 898-9261-2341 and press *9. That's 929-436-2866, 898-9261-2341, *9. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on the wire?
Yes, we have someone with the phone number ending in 0035.
If your phone number ends in 0035,
Yes, hi, good evening, council. My name is Yosef Wolf. I live at 71 Spring Street in Passaic, New Jersey,
ask you
07055.
to speak, Mr. Wolf, if you could please speak a little bit slower. There's feedback that we're getting in the chamber, and it's difficult to hear.
Okay, just 1 second.
Please continue, sir. Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
please continue.
Okay, so there is a resolution tonight. There's 3 things I wanted to ask about. One was agenda 22 for a repair of a 2016 fire truck. This is not a new fire truck. It's at least 7 years old already. And I was just curious what the price of this is. I mean, $660,000 to repair a fire truck. On agenda 23, Smith Sandy contract for the repair of some roadway. I was wondering, there is a revision of a contract, and of course, when a contract goes out to bid, the price for initially starting the project is a lot more than possibly, doing another few feet of roadway, because you already have your trucks, you already have your men. But then my question is, it's being revised down by $45,000. Is it possible that this contract is maybe half the work? And I just want to know it's being revised. Is it being revised proportionally? Is that correct? On agenda 26, for 162 to 164 President Street, there's a 10,000 square foot lot that is being recommended. The planning board recommended to be redeveloped. I would like to understand better. This is a residential lot, 10,000 square feet with a proper house in front. There is some truck parking or junk in the backyard because it's a long lot. It's not a wide lot. What things go to the zoning board? What things go to the planning board? This sounds like something that ordinarily would end up by the zoning board. And I also want to understand what exactly is being proposed, like what ideas. It seems like maybe a house can go behind. What are they looking to put up a building in the middle of a residential neighborhood on a very narrow lot? It's deep, it's long, but it's narrow. I also wanted to ask the council, there was a planning board meeting last week for 291 and 293 Oak Street. It was 4 lots, 3 or 4 lots that were being assembled.
Could you hold for just a moment, please? We're going to freeze the clock. Can we clear up this? Okay, come on. Whatever you can do to make it clear would be appreciated. Mr. Wolf, I apologize to you.
Okay, so there was a planning board meeting last week for 291 to 293 Oak Street. And I've always been told that, it's a process and it's a long process and it's a process and there's a lot of checks and balances along the way. I attended the meeting, and at this meeting was being proposed to put up 24 apartments. New Jersey law recommends, I don't know how binding it is, they recommend a minimum 2.1 parking spots for the type of units that are being proposed. So it would have been 48 parking spots required before, all the EV and all the other exclusions. The developer came in presenting that he only needed 32 spots, and the planning board approved it at 24 spots. And my question to this council and to mayor as well is, and maybe to the city commissioner who pushed this project very strongly, my question really is, what is the council's agenda in terms of parking? Parking has a lot of benefits. Besides for the need for parking, it also has a character in a neighborhood. If New Jersey says there's a certain amount of parking spots for a building, that means that there isn't going to be a skyscraper in the middle of the block. What happens is that because Passaic has this payment in lieu of parking, this $5,000 that someone can pay, all of a sudden developers are proposing projects that from the outset do not conform to the requirement of parking. this project doesn't have enough parking for the people that are going to be living there. And actually, a lot of people in the room, the elected officials in this room, are pushing or have pushed, or I don't know where it's holding, for people who come to this country to be able to drive in New Jersey, even if they're not citizens just yet. That means that car ownership in this city particularly is probably going to go up, hopefully in the next few years if that gets passed. And this city seems like we're taking, you know, we have streets, Gregory Street, I think, in maybe it's the mayor has converted certain lanes into parking in front of certain buildings with the big signs where we're supposed to thank the mayor for that, and we're building a big parking deck. And meanwhile, this project has on the first floor, they're proposing 4 stores instead of proposing parking spots. And those 4 stores would have allowed the proper amount of parking. And I'm asking also the $5,000 payments in lieu of parking. Today, it doesn't cost $5,000 times 100, times 1,000 to put up a parking deck. We had a parking deck that's getting approved for $14 million. Why don't we, this payments in lieu of parking seems so outdated. It doesn't seem to do anything. If you want to just allow parking, just allow it. What is the $5,000? And also, one just last thing, it seems like
Mr. Wolf, I want to thank you for your comments. That is 5 minutes, and let me see if we can get some comments back to you. You asked initially about the fire truck. Mr. Fernandez, could you? I have to admit that it's very difficult for me to understand, Mr. Wolf. Hopefully, you heard him better than I did.
I took some notes.
Very good.
So the fire truck, it is expensive, $600,000. This is a $2 million fire truck, right? This is not a fire engine, which is the one. This is the one with the big ladder on it that has 2 drivers in the front and back. So it's roughly close to $2 million. This was as a result of Hurricane Ida. Trust me, we fought with the insurance company as much as possible to try to get a brand new fire truck. The insurance company would only cover the repairs, which comes out to $660,000 plus, and it's paid by the insurance because it was due to a result of Hurricane Ida.
Okay. Other municipalities had difficulties as well as Passaic, I assume.
That is correct. That it hit us, our whole area, pretty hard.
And why exactly do we need such a large vehicle?
To address the different sizes of units within the municipality. So we have buildings that are significantly larger than 2 stories, and having ladder trucks, we have 2, one for the east side and one for the west side of town.
Very good, thank you.
Council President,
Mr. Mayor.
just through you, Council President, I know the business administrator would have pointed this out. Due to the proximity of the homes and structures, obviously the more densely populated areas, these ladder trucks hit the fires from on top. And the fire chief, if he was there, would be adamant explaining that this becomes extremely important. It's paramount in order to keep the fire from spreading down an entire block. That was specific to your question.
Thank you, sir. To the best of my knowledge, virtually every urban area requires a full-time fire department with so many structures made of wood. Clearly, if a fire started and was not immediately attended to, you're talking about losing an entire block, not to mention the physical security and safety of those affected. The gentleman next mentioned Smith Sandy, was it, Mr. Fernandez? Did you comment?
Yeah, so this is actually a decrease in the amount. It's not uncommon that when jobs of this nature happen, depending on what is found, the amount of material that is needed, that it goes up or down. In this case, it went down. So we're very happy that we were able to do the project at a lower cost than is bid out. As the council may know, when these things are drawn up, right, it really depends on when they start digging to make sure the quantities match. So in this case, the quantities were a bit higher, or the cost that they bid out might have been less, and they credited us for that as well.
The gentleman, my notes, I don't know, I hope yours are better than mine, spoke about President Street.
Yes. So this is to direct the planning board to conduct a study, which the planning board will receive at their next meeting. They'll review it and then come back with a recommendation to designate or not designate the parcel as an area in need of redevelopment. There are some troubling facts of the current situation that will come out in the report.
And this is how all applicants go in terms of the planning board?
For redevelopment projects, yes.
Okay, very good. Then the gentleman also spoke about parking spaces.
Yes.
24 are being provided, 72 are required. What is,
So he's talking about an application. I was lucky enough that I was presenting that evening, so I got to hear the case as well. Just a few misnomers that Mr. Wolf brought up. The payment in lieu of parking, and Councilman Schwartz, hopefully I beat you to the punch, because I know what he's going to say is that the payment in lieu of parking is not instead of parking. It is if the planning board, in their infinite wisdom, decides to grant a parking variance, right? That the city would then they would be subject to a payment in lieu of parking so that the city can find it somewhere else. As this council knows, but for the benefit of the public, originally that was not the case. They would grant parking variances and there would be no payment in lieu of parking. And the city had no way of then trying to add parking in other locations. To further that discussion, this was a hearing that presented multiple professionals. In fact, if memory serves me correctly, there was an engineer and a planner, both of them that testified at length regarding the needs for parking and their facility and how they would accommodate the parking for their specific use. And ultimately, after much deliberation, the planning board decided they were going to grant them the parking variance. Councilman Schwartz, I don't remember, but I think it was only like a handful of parking spaces that were needed, which would now be subject to the payment in lieu of parking. But it's not, I'm paying because I didn't provide parking. The planning board made their determination after hearing the testimony from all the professionals presented at that case. Separate
just
and apart.
if I can interrupt you, the reason why you're referring to Councilman Schwartz specifically is because he sits on the planning board as a council appointee, which he's graciously done for a number of years now. By law, the council has one representative on the planning board in an effort to bridge gaps and ensure communication amongst all the branches of government.
Right, and also because when it comes to payment in lieu of parking, Councilman Schwartz is the first one to say, no, this is after we decide to grant the parking variance, not before, so.
Very good. I think that answered the questions. Yes, good. Is there anyone here in City Hall who would like to address the council at this time? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council, Administration. My name is Mark Kopek, 480 Broadway, Passaic, New Jersey. The mayor has mentioned Dignity House, and I filed Oprah just to know how much does it cost the city to operate Dignity House. This is probably 4 months ago. I basically received that there is a return. For my question was that we don't basically keep track how much it costs us to run Dignity House. Second thing, and this is all to the business administrator. I want to talk about number one, and I know I have 5 minutes. I want to talk about the Greenwood rail track sale. I believe that the city should have received this track for free. 256 units. It was a redevelopment plan. I support redevelopment, but this was bad negotiation. This was unjustifiable enrichment and sweetheart deal. And the city has worked with this developer on many other projects. So a lot of us will say, well, what does first reading, redevelopment, second reading, redevelopment? I could tell you real simple. It's home run at the planning board. And you will ask me, well, how do I know that? Well, I sat on the planning board. I know. Second thing is, why the planning board members won't get the package 2 weeks prior to any project. We used to receive the package the day before the planning board meeting. We don't even have time to open that package and see what's going on in there. So let me move forward. 711, 729 Main Avenue. The city received this piece of land for $1. Rick Fernandez, Maritza Colon sign off on it, sell it for $850,000 to the Perez brothers. Just with the 32 unit plan, and the lot is worth $4 million. Now let's talk about Main Avenue. And most of you will ask, well, how do you know that? I'm a developer. I know how much a piece of land is worth with 32 units. 4 million, that means we shorten ourselves 3.1 million. Here we go again, sweetheart deal, unjustifiable enrichment. Once he builds it, it's worth over $10 million, if not more. So I stand here on some of these facts, and today we're here for the second reading from the same developer on a 821 Main Ave redevelopment, second reading. And there it goes, home run through the planning board. So you will ask me, well, what is home run? It's real simple. Maritza Colon, chairwoman, treasury to the mayor. Put the puzzle together. It goes right through. Now, before you go through redevelopment, you will sit down with Rick Fernandez, and they will discuss how many units you will get. It's all done right upstairs. Joe Buga, Rick Fernandez, they know what project. They agree right there. It comes right to you guys. First approval, second approval, home run, planning board. So my question is, do we treat every developer in this city the same as we treat these two particular developers? Because what it looks like to me is real simple. Sweetheart deal, unjustifiable enrichments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, for the record, you mentioned, sir, that you were a member of the planning board.
That's correct.
An appointed commissioner.
Yes.
Have you, I mean, obviously the charges that you stated are potentially extraordinarily serious.
They are.
Have you gone to any authority, such as the prosecutor's office, in terms of any of these statements?
Absolutely not. I believe in you guys. You guys got elected to serve the people of
Mr.
Passaic.
Kopik, forgive me. I appreciate your confidence in this council. You and I have a personal relationship, which
Yes.
I'm very proud of and pleased about. But I must tell you, this far goes beyond that. This is yelling fire in a crowded theater. You're a member of the board. You're accusing the board of sweetheart deals. I don't know what your vote was on these projects. That's secondary. But it would seem to me that as a developer on the board, you would have an advantage and an eyesight that others would not. For you to come to this council and to make these allegations and statements, you'll forgive me, sir, is a bit spurious, if not more than a bit spurious. To do such is, forgive me, sir, but I believe irresponsible. Now, if you're looking for a headline in the newspaper, that's all well and good.
Absolutely not.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. And
Absolutely
I
not.
hope that in the future, your remarks will either be more substantiated or be more temperate, because right now they are unacceptable. You have, in your comments, you have laid every commissioner, as well as Mr. Fernandez, the mayor, and other authorities, our legal department, which reviews all these plans. You have just put together at least 50 to 100 people in various levels. It's very easy.
We know it's true.
And I don't mean to preclude that, but it's very easy for anyone to make any kind of statement that they wish to make. You are responsible, though.
May I share?
Please.
Okay. If you're going to take a piece of land that's donated to the city for $1 and sell it for $850, first, the smart thing would be to get it appraised.
Mr. Kopik, I have no doubt that there are any number of things that can and cannot be done. I know very little about real estate except that I own a home with my wife, and that's the extent of my real estate holdings. I've never understood real estate, and I never will. I prefer equities and bonds. The bottom line is, I only say that so that you understand the degree of incomprehensibility I have on this whole subject. But one thing that I do know, if you are suggesting that something was done untoward, that something was done illegal, immoral, unethical, and the list goes on, then you have an affirmative responsibility to respond to the appropriate authority. If this is in fact being conducted by the city of Passaic, the logical and only address would be the U.S. Attorney or the New Jersey Attorney's Office. We invite you to go to either of them as well as the prosecutor's office. But again, sir, I will not tolerate remarks made without substantiation, and that's what you have done. So I'm not going to allow this to go back and forth.
Okay,
You spoke, your time is up.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council President,
Mr. Mayor,
Council President, for the record, because a statement was made and the word facts were used, and facts, that's an important thing. Those are absolute when someone states facts. The statement was made that the business administrator, Rick Fernandez, and an individual by the name of Maritza Colon Montañez sold property at 711 to 729 Main Avenue for $850,000. Council President, if I may, I would like, through you, to have the business administrator just explain the process, the SDA, who owned it, and how they actually got a hold of the property briefly. Also, I would like to share this, and thank you so much for speaking on behalf of the administration, the business administrator, the lawyers, and the council. These allegations of deals from the council, from the business administrator, from the mayor's office, I don't know what to say. Ms. Kopik has been a member of the planning board. I won't go back and forth regarding this with him. He has proposed plans. He has requested numerous units. He knows the process. To make such allegations on the record against individuals and claim facts and claim to be an expert who knows development and knows property and not know the background or how this process works. So I've made a statement that individuals sold property. Council President, no business administrator, no individual on any board has the authority to sell a property. Not for $850,000, not for $10 million, not for $1. They don't get to sell property. There's a system of checks and balances. This particular project in front of Main Avenue becomes extremely important because the city pushed to recover this property so that it could go on the tax roll, so that development could occur. But in terms of who bid on the property, in terms of who won the opportunity to develop it, I would like, with obviously your direction, this is a council meeting, not a mayor's meeting, but Council President, I would ask that the business administrator could respond in order for the public to know the process, and then no one arbitrarily gets to decide, I want to sell this property to one person and not another. And then if I may, Council President, as much as after those statements, it pains me to say this. Mr. Colbrick's first statement, I agree with 100%. I fought adamantly so that we could get the property where the railroad rights were at for free. I did not want to purchase that. I wanted that for free. I fought to get it for free. This council fought to get it for free. Members of the community came and rose their voice, despite the fact that members of this council and myself agreed that if we would have gotten it for free, the development would have been better. We would not put units there in order to remove the blighted area, the train tracks, the prostitution and drug use, despite all the police that was going on near the violence. We fought to get it for free, but residents.
Mr. Mayor, excuse
Yes.
me for just a moment. Officer, will you escort the gentleman out, please? For those of you who might not be aware, the city council has an ordinance which requires that anyone who wishes to videotape or tape a meeting must first approach the city clerk to inform her that they would like to do such. Her agreement is automatic, but by law it must be done. Mr. Mayor, forgive me for interrupting you.
Sure. So I wanted to highlight in that process, members of the community objected to the particular deal. They would have got the land for free. And in response to this democratic and most sacred form of government, members of elected office chose to hear the public and went with another route to clear out the railroad tracks. That is a checks and balance system. There is due process. I highlight the work of Council President Scheer, council members, the business administrator, because despite and in direct contradiction to the statements that were put on the record, this council and this mayor did not push through a process of taking land or forcing a deal, but rather listened to the community. This council for decades has welcomed open objections, criticisms, and positions. Me as mayor have often, or I as mayor, have often taken a step back from initiatives that I have definitely wanted to occur. So I agree. Yes, the land would have been great for free. Individuals objected consistently at numerous meetings. So we involved the state, had town hall meetings. I will share not one of those meetings did Mr. Kopech show up to speak on behalf of the deal. Not one of those meetings did he ever come to put on the record, hey, Mayor, your attempt to get this land for free, I agree. They say hindsight is 2020, but this is not a case of hindsight being 2020. This is accurately as the council president stated. These are not facts. These are salacious and irresponsible allegations put on the record about individuals. And I thank you, Council President, for directing this individual and any individual that believes there is wrongdoing to take it to the authorities. But again, and I don't want to go long, some individuals put statements on the record and then walk away from those statements. And those are not facts in terms of the property, in terms of the land, in terms of how people bid on the property, in terms of who ultimately gets to decide whether those bids are accepted from the state to commissions, to the council, and ultimately to the public, who gets to decide whether they approve of these projects, whether in election season or at council meetings. So, Council President, again, I would ask if the business administrator would be allowed to comment on the process of Main Avenue and how that bid went out.
Thank you, Mayor.
And maybe the pilots for the train track project.
Once your time is up, please. I'm terribly sorry. Mr. Fernandez.
Yes, Council President. So just to correct some statements and maybe add the facts of the case. Facts of the case is this was owned by the State of New Jersey Department of Education through the Schools Development Authority. They built the school, and the strip of land was to go back into for public bidding. The state themselves requested that we be part of the bidding system. It was a publicly open bid. The city never owned the property as was stated. It was always owned by the state of New Jersey. There was an open public bid. If memory serves me correct, there were 3 bidders, and the current owner was the highest bidder for the property after there was an appraisal done of the property, and based on that appraisal was what we started the bid at. So the bid number that was started was based off the appraisal, and it went up from there. Ultimately, the city through the process was more of a pass-through because they wanted it to go through this is the state of New Jersey, wanted it to pass through the redevelopment agency so that it went from the redevelopment agency to the developer. So the state of New Jersey kind of made the agreement, and the closing was simultaneous. So the city of Passaic, it wasn't like we owned the property and we had it and then we decided to bid it out. So those are the exact facts of what happened with 7-Eleven Main after many, many months of negotiations to try to get this bid out and back on the tax rolls. And as the council is well aware, it is well on its way to being constructed and providing a buffer from the traffic on Main Avenue to the school, as well as continuing the consistency of our central business district with a mixed-use development.
Council President, forgive me, but just to make clear,
If I could, Mr. Mayor, would you allow me just a moment? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Mr. Fernandez, so let me understand this. The city was asked by the Department of Education, the State Department of Education, to involve itself in the process. That's correct?
Yes, but obviously, just going back to what the mayor said, the city, through his administrator, pushing to try to get development and the continuation of Main Avenue, and the state of New Jersey, instead of doing it on their own, decided that it would be better if the city did the bidding process.
But the department, from my small knowledge of Trenton politics and process, it's my understanding that the state may have asked the city's involvement, but fundamentally, and after the city's recommendation, the department then looked at the recommendation in terms of whether it accepted it or not. There was no written requirement that the department accept it. The department simply relied upon local talent and understandings. That's correct?
That is correct. So as an example to your case, if we wanted to say, you know what, the second bidder, the one that's lower is a better developer, the states could say no. They want the highest bid. So
Very
the
good.
decision was made through the state to sell their property at
Very
that
good.
number.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry that I cut you off, sir.
Council President, the business administrator mentioned the consistency regarding Main Avenue. Had that bid not gone through, 3 bidders and the state ultimately determining which one they wanted to go with, and I believe the speaker himself had shared that this individual, whoever owned it, has done a number of projects. In the assessment evaluation process, they asked, have they done any other development here or anywhere else? So that becomes a plus in application. But what I want to share is, if it wouldn't have been developed for commercial, mixed residential and commercial, the school would have gone all the way on to Main Avenue. The development would have been an educational complex, which would have been inconsistent with what's on Main Avenue. The other thing I wanted to share in terms of the property and the railroad rights, and I just wanted to conclude with this, Council President, is the city had no control over who purchased the rights to that land. We did not determine it. We didn't invite anybody, anyone, including the speaker or anyone else, could have put in a bid for that land when it went up for tax sale. Here's the challenge as mayor. Oftentimes, and I get what happens during election seasons, Council President. I get the allegations and those who will smile and come to dinners with elected officials and then later come to the mic and accuse them of the most horrendous and horrific acts. But I want to make sure the public understands. The city of Passaic, Council President Gary Scher, even in his role as assemblyman, Councilman Daniel Schwartz, Councilman Hyman, Councilman Dr. Terrence Love, Councilman Joe Garcia, Councilwoman Mello, Business Administrator Fernandez, nor Mayor Hector Laura. And it is rare I speak about myself in the third person. I'm not a millionaire athlete, but I need to make this point. None of us go around telling someone, hey, why don't you go bid on the land? If any of us had the millions to bid on lands, we wouldn't be in office right now. When property becomes available, individuals come and they make an offer. They buy the property, then they come and they submit their applications. The individual who spoke has done it himself. Bought property, Council President. Other individuals have done it. Then they propose a plan. This council assesses a plan after going through those boards and determines whether or not it will be conducive to the quality of life, the master plan, and the long-term vision of development for the city, or whether there are some concerns. This idea that one developer is favored over another is ridiculous. Council President, we have rejected a number of projects. When I say we, I say because I work along with this council. When I agree or disagree, we ultimately make decisions together. And we have approved a number of projects that have transformed our east side, that has improved the life and the quality of services around the city. Now, do residents always agree? No. There are residents that call in and say, I disagree with this project. I don't like your approach. But I must make this clear. I will hold up the integrity, the work, the due diligence, the professionalism of every single member of this city council, of the business administrator, of the attorneys, of those who volunteer on these boards against any other municipality. Disagree with us, it's fair. Run against us, it's your right. How dare you imply something done that is in any way nefarious, unethical, or illegal? Be transparent enough to say, I disagree with your approach and I have a better plan. Don't just throw and sling mud and think that's a platform to run on. These individuals have worked for over 20 years to help shape a city that is now better. Not once ever attacking individuals or being negative. We take the high road because we take this job serious. It is easy to attack. It is easy to lie, to malign, or to make condescending messages over a phone and say, hey, you're good enough to cut a ribbon, but who told you you're in charge of a city? Run for the office or make your allegation to the appropriate authorities. But don't ever think that you simply get to say what you want throw in or pepper it with some other fancy words and then claim it's a fact when it is not. Council President, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone else like to address the council, please? Mr. Kopic,
And this is for you.
I'd be happy to receive it through the clerk if you would like.
No problem.
But there's no, your time to speak, as you know, is concluded.
So you want me to hand it to her?
That's, if you wouldn't mind, sir, that would be, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can we just clear up about the pilots for that project once we're clearing everything up?
Mr. Wolf, your time is up. Could someone please disconnect Mr. Wolf's time? You did have 5 minutes, like everyone else is entitled to have, and no more. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
¿Podemos hablar? ¿Cómo
Sí.
está? Vamos a hablar en español.
Está bien, pueden hablar.
Ok. Nosotros vivimos
Digan
Mi
su
nombre es
nombre
Miguel
y
Díaz.
dirección, por favor.
82 La Poison Avenue.
Los nombres.
Mi nombre es Miguel Díaz. Apartamento 1B.
Ok, gracias.
What street?
Sí, yo,
Tu nombre.
Betania Cruz, resido en la 82 Paulson Avenue, apartamento 13, Passaic, New Jersey, 07055.
Ujú. Sí,
Sí, nosotros estamos acá porque tenemos una inquietud y una preocupación mayormente porque la razón es porque de una forma inesperada el propietario nos subió la renta de una forma inesperada. Mayormente las personas que vivimos en el edificio nos subió la renta de $200, de $150 a $200. Cuestión que yo
Un momento,
diría,
por favor.
yo voy a... you want me to translate it?
If you could translate, please.
Su nombre es Dania, ¿correcto?
Betania.
Betania. Ok, lo voy a leer para que se quede grabado en el sistema, ok? Si me da un permiso. Okay, her name is Bethany, and she resides at 82 Paulison here in the city of Passaic. She is here because she is addressing an increase in her rent of $200 by her landlord. Not only her, but everyone, all the tenants living in within that dwelling. Puede proceder, por favor.
Excuse me 1 second, please. Madam Clerk, if you could make a 10-minute maximum for this lady. Usually we're 5 minutes, as everyone knows, where translation has to take place, and we necessarily double that amount.
Como yo voy a ir traduciendo, me hace una pausa cada vez que usted pueda parar, entonces así se puede quedar grabado en el sistema.
como había dicho, que de una forma inesperada nos sorprendió. Nos llegó una notificación a la mayoría de las personas que vivo en este edificio del alta de la renta. Nos subió de 150 a $200, que yo diría que es inaceptable, yo asumo.
Okay, she said that all of us recently. ¿Usted sabe en qué mes fue ahora, en el mes de enero, que recibieron la carta?
Sí, en enero.
Okay,
en enero.
during the month of January, they received a letter from the landlord increasing their rent between $150 to $200. This is usted dice todos los residentes que viven en el
La mayoría.
yeah, most of the residents living within the dwelling. Puede proceder, por favor.
Sí. Independientemente de esa alza de la renta, particularmente yo, actualmente yo no estoy trabajando, yo lo que estoy haciendo un part-time de noche de 3 horas diarias de lunes a sábado. E incluso desde noviembre yo no pago la renta por esa misma situación. Y estoy muy preocupada y temo de que me hagan un desalojo.
Okay.
Señora Betania, ¿te puedo pedir un permiso que pause un momento para que ella pueda traducir? Porque si habla por mucho largo rato, entonces se va a demorar y a lo mejor falla lo que estás hablando para ella poder tener un momento, por favor. Council President, I just asked her to please pause a little more so that it gives Councilwoman Mello a little bit more space to be able to translate in clips so that everything she's asking and commenting on is translated appropriately.
Okay, so now what she was speaking about is that she herself, and she speaks on behalf of herself, she's currently working a part-time job where she's working about 3 hours per night
and it's, usted trabaja de noche, ¿correcto? Yeah, during the night. She has not been able to pay her rent since November, and due to this increase, she is in fear of being evicted from the dwelling. Puede proceder, por favor.
Si trabajo en la clínica North Hudson, ahí clean,
Ujú.
3 horas de noche y como reitero, tengo desde noviembre que no pago la renta y temo de que me hagan un desalojo y quiero como que me den una pequeña ayuda en cuanto a eso y para que no se realice ese desalojo.
Okay.
¿De cuánto?
Okay. So she once again reiterated that she's currently working as part-time, 3 hours per night at North Hudson as a cleaning person. And the reason why she's here is because she's looking for guidance. So this increase doesn't take place, and also just trying to find guidance on, because she does not want the.
Has Mrs. Santos sought the assistance of an attorney?
¿Usted ha procurado la asistencia de un abogado?
No.
No.
I would, this council, on behalf of the council, we would suggest that you get in touch with any number of organizations, legal aid, etc., which will provide free representation to you in terms of this increase and what is fair and what is legal. In fact, forget the word fair, what is legal.
Okay, lo que Council President quiere decirle es que de parte del Consejo Municipal, lo que le podemos referir es que contacte a un abogado para que pueda asistirle y le pueda guiar durante este proceso en algo que sea legal y que sea justo. Es lo que le podemos referir que haga. Hay organizaciones también que le pueden proveer la asistencia y darle la guía necesaria en este proceso.
Mr. Fernandez, are you aware of the law in terms of this, how much they can increase, not increase, etc.?
Yes, it's really dependent on their leases and when the leases were created and how long they have been in the apartment. I would like to mention that the gentleman with her did come to the mayor's office. The mayor directed us to have the conversation with our rent control attorney from the city to review the case. If with the copies that were submitted, I'll make sure that the rent control attorney also gets copies of that because I don't believe I have Miss Betania's information that we can
I need
include.
you to translate all of this for their behalf into Spanish.
I will gladly do that. I don't know if you wanted Councilman Mello to continue the translation,
Oh,
so
as-
you'll be sending the bills. Would you like me to translate?
Please, if you
tonight?
wouldn't mind.
Okay. So, el señor, me acuerdo de él, él vino a la oficina del alcalde y el alcalde me dirigió que hablara con el abogado de rent control de la ciudad. Si me puede dar la información suya para yo también pasarle la información al abogado del rent control para que él revise los papeles. Ahora, él no te puede dar aviso legal como un abogado suyo. Él lo que va a hacer es revisar la ordenanza y basado de la ordenanza de nosotros, dirigirle a lo que tiene que hacer en los próximos pasos. Porque todo esto es dependiente de cuando usted se mudó al apartamento. La ordenanza todo es dependiente del día que usted rentó y del lease que usted tiene con el dueño de la propiedad. So, ellos van a revisar eso y después a lo mejor hay una respuesta que pueda responder, se puede actuar o tienen que ir a su propio abogado. So, Council President, just I added a few extra lines, and basically what I said is our rent control attorney is going to review this. They're not their attorneys and provide legal advice to them. What they're going to do is they're going to look at their situation and compare it to our ordinance and direct them to, you know, what their next steps would need to be. And that may include them going to their own attorney. It's really going to be dependent on their lease and when they sign their lease with the property owner, because our ordinance is dependent on time of occupancy.
If we can also direct them, I don't know the appropriate numbers, and forgive me for doing this, but if, as required by the state, local government offices are required to have lists of attorneys that can be made available to people on an income-based level. If they'd like to call my assembly office tomorrow, we can give them a list of those attorneys who would be pleased to represent them at no charge. Could you? And the office number is 973-249-3665.
3665.
249-3665.
Ok, so a mañana le voy a dar, si tienen un lapicero, so lo que dijo Council President es que él le va a dar una lista de abogados. So mañana si pueden llamar, esos son abogados que le pueden ayudar durante el proceso y pueden llamar a su oficina de la asamblea y entonces ahí ya le podrán dar los números donde ustedes pueden contactar a estos abogados para que puedan.
Él dice que no le guste su mente, que se mude.
Okay.
Pero yo vivo el Seguro Social. Y entonces mando la carta de 200 pesos. Yo soy el más antiguo, a uno de las personas más antiguas que vive en ese building. Y cuando no le guste su aumento, que se mude. Esa es la pregunta de él.
Okay.
Y uno puede evitar un problema, mejor se queda callado.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that the landlord has told him that if anyone who doesn't like what he's doing, all they got to do is move.
That's very nice of the landlord. We appreciate his comments.
Dice
It's not
que,
quite the way the law works.
dice que no es de la forma que la ley trabaja. Desafortunadamente, eso sabemos que es un proceso difícil para ustedes, pero mañana cuando ustedes llamen, entonces ya le podrán dar la información para que entonces puedan, porque esos son abogados que trabajan de acuerdo al ingreso de la persona que le contacten.
Está bien, gracias.
So, si ustedes tienen un lapicero para darle el número, ¿no? Ok, yo se lo puedo anotar acá. So I'm going to write the phone number for them.
Número de oficina.
Council President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Council President, just for the record and a point of clarity, if the term can be put on the record, the rent leveling attorney and that rent leveling, just because rent control means something else today, and it may give a perception or some people may interpret it differently. A rent leveling, which is translated in Spanish, nuestro abogado de renta y nivelizando la renta, which just means that that's where our cases go. I just want to put that for the record. I know the business administrator was being clear, but it is our rent leveling board and attorney. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir.
Yo voy al Seguro Social. Yo no cualifico para los cupones porque yo gano 1,000 pesos. Mi niña me hizo un papel para housing. Yo no cualifico. No sé por qué. Este hombre, el que no le gusta, que se mude. Esa es la contestación de él. You don't like it, you move. Eso es el primer verso. Entonces, la gente que está ahí, él quiere sacar a chicos de 10 y 15 años para que venga de afuera para quemar. Ese es el problema.
Llamen mañana a ese número que le van a poder dar la asistencia.
Hicieron copia.
No, si ella le puede dar el papel, señora Betania, le puede dar el papel para que ellos le puedan hacer una copia.
Sí, el papel mío estaba ahí. ¿Sí?
Se lo entrega a la señorita. Gracias.
Thank you.
No, de nada.
Thank you. Councilwoman, Mr. Fernandez, thank you both for your translation. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Peter Zari.
Your address, please, Mr. Azari.
Mr. Council, I have a concern.
I'm sorry, your address, please.
Excuse me?
Your address.
23 Ashton Place, apartment 3D, Passaic, New Jersey, 07055.
Thank you, sir.
The reason I'm here is because my civil rights was violated on February 11th. Someone from unemployment reported me dead, deceased, and now I have over $18,000 worth of overpayment that I shouldn't have in my account that was fraudulently added to my account. I used to work as a bus driver for TransEd. And on May 19th, Mr. Eric Walker confirmed that somebody reported me dead. He handed me this note. So now I have issues, and I'm wondering who fixes our account. There's dozens of people in our community suffering with overpayments that shouldn't have overpayments, fraudulent overpayments, respectfully to this court, to this council. I have approval letters that I'm approved of the $18,000 that they stole from my account. Ms. Darlene Wilson, that works for unemployment. I also have that I connected to Bergen County unemployment, stating that I owed over $37,000 to the IRS, which I don't. This is deception. My question to you, I have approval letters of the documents from the commissioner, from Deputy Eve Chief Hung, and nobody in our community has fixed my account or my identity. Now, can you please tell me who's in charge of this situation?
Mr. Rosari, your question assumes that this council has competency in this issue, and we do not. It sounds like a criminal matter, certainly a civil matter. Would suggest that you contact the police department.
Whoa, excuse me, respectfully.
Mr. Rosari, I have no doubt that you've contacted many.
I have contact even
It's
your
not,
office
it's beyond the competence.
several times.
It's beyond the
contact the
competence, Mr.
governor.
Irizarry. It is
Sure.
beyond the competence of this council.
How? If this happened with our community and they've defrauded and reported me dead, that's against civil rights of color.
Well, I don't know if it's against civil rights, but there certainly sounds to be a
What
large
you
number
mean you
of.
don't know?
Mr.
Is
Irizarry,
that a sworn
it is
statement?
beyond, fine, sir, it's beyond the competence of this
Respectfully to the
council.
council, is that a sworn statement?
It is beyond the competence of this council to advise you. We would certainly suggest you get an attorney.
Oh,
More than
I'm
that,
representing
we cannot
myself
comment.
because for the incompetence, I have reached and I have followed all procedures and all channels. I write Washington. I write the governor. I know all his secretaries. And to this day, everyone is walking around hardship, negligence, and nobody has fixed nothing. There are children suffering, people committing suicide due to the fraudulent activity with our community. And y'all stay there and have breakfast and eat eggs and have coffee while this is going on, and have documents of approval, and nobody is doing anything.
Mr.
And they
Irizarry,
reported me dead. State cameras does not lie. Respectfully, Mr. Schaefer, I'm just trying to get this honest factor of litigation now.
we understand your frustration.
I'm not frustrated, sir.
We understand.
Especially when you're at right and you have the evidence to prove it, sir. Respectfully. Me and my family has suffered tremendously. For you to stay there and say, I'm frustrated. I'm far from frustrated. I'm in the right of law.
Mr. Irizarry, we
Yes,
thank you for
woman.
being here. I wish that we could be of greater assistance to you than to advise you to speak with an attorney who can helpfully direct you appropriately.
I rep myself pro se because there's nobody who represent us.
Mr. Irizarry, we thank you for
Depriving us
being here.
equal
Unfortunately,
rights.
the council has no authority. This municipality has no authority in a case like this.
But you're the assembly person of our community.
It is beyond the competence of the legislature of the state of New Jersey, if I may be so
But is it
bold.
okay a state official to steal people's identity, report them dead,
Mr.
and tamper
Irizarry,
with their documents?
I wish we could be of assistance to you. I really do.
I have contacted our mayor for these concerns, and nobody has done anything respectfully to our
It's
courts.
because it's beyond their competence, sir. There's nothing more
So
than we
are
can
you
say.
stating that this is bigger than the person here? That's not my issue. That's not my
Council
problem,
President, time is up.
respectfully.
Mr. Irizarry, I'm told that your 5 minutes is up.
Sure. I see you in the next meeting then.
Very good, sir.
Respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you.
For
Thank you
giving me this
for
time.
being here. Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the council? Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on the phone who wishes to address the council?
We do have one person with their hand up on the Zoom.
And what is their phone number?
Doesn't have a phone number. They just have their hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joe Conoscente, 170 Broadway. My first question here is, Council President, has the case been settled? How did you settle it? Who's the owner? of 413, 417 Paulson Avenue. My next question is, the new ordinance for blocking driveways as a owner and or tenant. I don't know on the ordinance that was listed on the old ordinance says that anybody that blocks the driveway needs a permit. So the question I have is, did you take the old ordinance off before you made the new ordinance? Because if somebody's blocking the driveway, somebody called the police, they're gonna get a ticket or towed. So that's that question. My next question is, the building on Central Avenue, you have a pediatric doctors for children. Also, you have a tattoo parlor in the same building. You have a Tokyo spa and massage parlor in the same building. All in the same building. What are you doing about that? Is there a study? Is somebody investigating, or no, somebody could explain it? My next question is 147 and 149 Broadway, two abandoned houses. You have squatters living in the back of the house. Number two, they once in a while they start up a fire pit. Three, they're using the property as a bathroom. Four, you have garbage all over the place. Five, you have junk around the property, which a few months back, they cleaned up the front yard and they stored everything in between the two buildings. What is that? Six, they live in a homemade tent in the back of the building. And also in the back of the property, you have different sections where you have piles of clothes, all kinds of garbage in the back. The place is a hazard. As far as I know, they have a new owner that just took over. Somebody could reach out to the owner, or the city can clean it up and charge the owner. But something should be done with this property. It's a health hazard, all kinds of hazards, this property. My last question that I have here is, I brought it up and it was supposed to be a study, but I haven't heard anything about it. The intersection of Howe Avenue and Paulson. Study was supposed to be done for that intersection. It's very dangerous. Cars running the lights. Crossing guard is getting close to get hit. A lot of double parking in that area. You have to do like they did on Paulson, Gregory, and a few other places where they put the school hour poster to eliminate their time to make those right on red. You can eliminate that. You know, it'll help a lot. These are my questions I have.
Okay, let's see if we can answer some of these questions that you had raised. Mr. Fernandez, Susie, in terms of legal, the gentleman referred to a case involving 14-17 Paulson. If that case was settled? Or is it still outstanding?
I'm not sure which case he is referring to.
I know which case he is.
To the best of your knowledge, has that been settled yet, Mr. Fernandez? Not settled?
It's either on this agenda, give me 1 second, because there were other things there. Let me just make sure. But yes, this came from a court order, and there was a resolution that was going to be on, here it is. Oh, that's not the one. So it was a court order, and it's, the current owner still has it, of the property. And so there was a settlement.
Okay, very good. You asked her about driveways, if a new ordinance is brought in, does that mean that the old ordinance was canceled? And the answer is yes. The new ordinances supersede old ordinances, and if they're written well, then as we hope that they are, and we assume that they are, the ordinance would automatically nullify what it would be contradictory.
So you took
If
the
I
word
can
permit
clarify,
out of
Council
it?
President,
Please,
I think I know what he's getting at.
Yes.
Both ordinances are still in place because one ordinance is if the owner and the tenant are allowed to block their own driveway. But if some other person comes and blocks the driveway, the other ordinance needs to be in place so that the police department could remove them because they're blocking the driveway illegally. If that makes sense.
But the
well,
ordinance says
knowing local
landlord and
government,
tenant.
it always makes sense. If we did it on the state level, I mean, we'd be in jail, but that's another story. All right, that makes sense. Okay, next, the gentleman asked how we can have a doctor's office, a tattoo parlor, and a massage parlor in one building, and I guess that's God Bless America. Is that what the response is to that?
Yes, sir, but I also know what he's insinuating when we're talking about the massage parlors. I think the council's aware and the mayor has been very vocal about adding additional penalties for multiple offenders of massage parlors that are not operating as a massage parlor. So we can't get into the issues of a massage parlor is bad. Those individuals that are operating a massage parlor illegally and doing illegal activity, which is not a massage parlor,
All of them.
the mayor is working on additional penalty. We've been working on changing the ordinance. I've been a part of it. The chief's been a part of it. Our attorney's been a part of it. And I am, in fact, we just had a conversation today. We hope to have a draft for the next agenda for the mayor to review and for the council to look at as well. So we're in the process of finalizing that ordinance now.
And this is regarding
Enhanced penalties for multiple offenders when it comes to illegal,
massage.
right, massage.
But there'd be no, what would be the word? It would be incongruent to have a doctor's office
Tattoo parlor.
and a massage parlor, perfectly legal, et cetera, in the same building, correct?
That's correct. And again, I don't want to put any words in the mayor's mouth. I know he has been adamant that we look at a way to enhance the penalties for these illegal massage parlors, especially the multiple offenders, because it's been too easy for them to slap a new name on it. So Mayor, did I address that accurately? I just want to make sure because the ordinance is almost ready.
Mr. Business Administrator, and thank you, that is accurate. The Council President, the specific question is an inconsistency in terms of those operating together, and no, massage parlors and doctors, massage parlors in any business can be in the same building. Any other measure that we have looked at, we received direction from the state and from legal departments. We are not allowed to discriminate against a business because of a perceived activity or because that particular business individuals don't like. They have a right to be there. Again, you have articulated it quite accurately. Any illegal activity, whether that pertains to a massage parlor or a doctor's office that may be involved in illegal activity, that goes through our legal departments, police department, law enforcement, prosecutors. But thank you, because this council and my administration have taken an approach that any activity that is illegal from businesses in the city must be addressed, but we must address it within the law. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. While we're on a roll, the gentleman spoke about 147 Broadway, squatters, how many towns. You're familiar, Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, we will. We have addressed it in the past and we've boarded it up and to the point where if you pass by, it's no longer wooden boarding. It's more aluminum plated to try to strengthen it. So if you go there, you got aluminum plates. Really, the delay has been the transfer of ownership from the Mormon church in Utah to the local developer that picked it up. So there's been some delays on that, but it is part of a development project, and we're hoping that they can work out whatever they have to work out to get that building demolished. I am working with the owner to try to get it demolished as soon as possible. But as you all know, it's a risk because if it gets demolished and there's approvals don't go appropriately, now they've demolished the building and there's no way of retrofitting. So that's kind of been the issue, but we've been working on it since the very beginning to try to get it demolished or redeveloped.
Can we at least get them to clean up the area?
Yes, sir. I already have a note that we'll call tomorrow and figure out to do a walkthrough to see if any of that aluminum paneling was lifted and removed. But we have addressed it in the past.
Good deal. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The
sir.
last question, the intersection, Howard Paulson,
Intersection.
there's supposed to be a study.
Paulson.
Yeah, I must have missed that question. What was the question regarding?
It's extraordinarily dangerous.
So we'll have traffic go out and do a study and look at it.
Good.
We'll have to look at the count,
Good deal.
the accident counts.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council?
We have someone on the line that just unmuted themselves.
Who was on what's the
It
phone
doesn't
number?
state their phone number.
Is there someone else on the line who would like to address the council?
Yes, Council President. My name is Steve Siclosi, 23 Orchard Street in Passaic. Couple of
Yes,
things.
sir.
A couple of things. First, some old business. I'd like to hear from you and/or our attorney on an update on a situation that I brought up back in October regarding these electric scooters and electric bicycles and hoverboards. I brought it up about them riding on the sidewalk and my concern with that. And I know the attorney said she was going to look into what other municipalities have done in the way of ordinances to kind of curb that type of activity. And I'm concerned because we're now in February, another month. Once spring comes around, the warm weather, we're going to see probably a marked increase in people using these types of devices. And I just want to know, what's the update as far as protecting pedestrians that want to walk on the sidewalk? So like an update on that. So that's kind of the old business. Newer business, couple of things I wanted to comment on. Mr. Wolf had brought up concern about parking as it relates to both the zoning board and the planning board. And my comment on that is that, I've seen a marked, I used to go in person to both the zoning board meetings and planning board meetings. Mr. Fernandez knew me as a fixture back in the day when he was on those boards. And, what I've seen through the years, probably over the last, I'm going to say, probably about the last 8 years, is that parking, I think Mr. Wolf is right. It seems like no matter what the suggested parking is, better than 50% of the proposals that go through are approved without the recommended amount of parking. I think it's a trend that seems to be going up, not going down. I see more and more, apartments and development going on, but they never have the adequate parking spaces. And like I said, what I've seen more recently is that the trend seems to be getting worse, not getting better. So I don't know exactly what the solution is, but I question how we can kind of curb that. I think part of it was this payment in lieu of parking, or whatever you want to call it. I think that was trying to curb it, but I don't think that it's been effective. So that's my concern, and that's my comment on that. As far as the issues that Mr. Kopech brought up, I have mixed feelings about some of those things and some of the allegations. But one thing I do want to bring up and comment about, people seem to have forgot about, was the issue with the 663 bank building, where again, it was sold to a developer after the city invested, I don't know how much, literally probably hundreds of thousands of dollars with the asbestos abatement and things of that nature. and it was sold at a loss. So, you know, the city doesn't necessarily always make the best decisions. And again, I just want to comment that maybe we do need to scrutinize some of these things a little bit better. Not saying that, again, anybody's trying to do anything underhanded, but again, I've seen things that have, you know, you often scratch your head and say, why are they doing it this way? But anyway, be that as it may, I don't mean to grandstand here. A couple other things that were on the agenda. Maybe you can make some comments on this. Items 15 and 16, the funding for the local station house adjustment. If you could explain what that is and what's the adjustment? I mean, is it in terms of dollars? Or are we getting some money back, or what are the dollars associated with those two items? If you can make some commentary on that, I would appreciate it. Similarly, on item number 24, rescinding the contract for the two Chevy Spark sedans. My first question is, what are these Spark sedans? What were they going to be used for? What departments? Why did we even contemplate purchasing these? Second question is, how much was involved? And then the third question, of course, is why are you rescinding the contracts? Is it was something that we just decided, you know, we were spending too much money, or it was money that didn't need to be spent? Some commentary on that would be helpful. The other thing is item number 27, settlement agreement with Carlton Cartwright versus the city of Passaic. What does that involve? What caused that that issue? What's it all about?
Thank you very much.
And what's the settlement amount?
Mr. Seclesi, thank you, sir. Update on electric scooters. Susie, I know you've been in touch with municipalities throughout the state.
Yes, we have, and I've also sat down several times with Chief Guzman to discuss this. There are some difficulties with the regulations, and we are waiting for some guidance. But it is something we are working on, and we are in the process of getting down the correct language for a potential ordinance to present to the council.
When you say this is being discussed, who's discussing this issue?
Well, there's been discussions throughout the state and other municipalities as to what can be regulated.
On the highest levels,
yes.
The Attorney General's office of the state.
Correct.
So it's not just an issue that can be solved by
Overnight.
one municipality versus another.
That is correct.
Right, and probably any attempt to do that would be
Subject to challenge.
very good. So we're kind of stuck with what the state will come out with.
That is correct. So
Okay.
we await further guidance from them, but we are looking into it. We have not forgotten about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fernandez, items 15 and 16, funding of the station house. Could you share with us what we're doing there?
Yeah, so I guess the best way to quote it, and something that maybe the public may be aware of, there used to be a program called Scared Straight, and that was kind of for the juveniles, and they changed the name of it. They thought this was more acceptable for the station house adjustment. The 15 is for $45,000, and 16 is $39,801. These are the same amounts as we received last year to run the programs. They are very successful, and they're helping a lot of the city's troubled youth to get on the right path.
Good deal. The gentleman also asked about 24, rescinding an award that was rescinded because they don't make them anymore. Is that correct?
That is correct. The pandemic has really left many municipalities suffering in need of vehicles and not being able to get them. So forget about special orders. There are no orders. You're lucky if you find whatever's on the lot that runs. So this was going to be for the police enforcement officers, which is the PEOs, the parking enforcement officers. I'm sorry, the parking enforcement officers. So they're small little, 4-cylinder sedans that are just to help them get around town. And they're no longer manufactured.
Okay, and 27, is the settlement that have been asked about?
That is correct. Obviously, we cannot discuss the settlement in public. I'll defer to my attorney of what we can say and can't say. But it's a settlement and it's, is the amount okay to
The
say?
amount is okay, and it is from insurance funds.
The
Yes,
amount
it's
the amount
50
is-
it's
the amount is public information, right? The rest is not.
50,000 and it's our deductible. So really it's, the rest is paid by insurance. So it's basically what our deductible would be for the,
Well, actually, that is the amount of the settlement we had.
oh, that's right. It was
So
negotiated
there's
down to
no-
so there
no
is no
additional
additional
sum.
cost.
Right.
Right.
The city, the bottom line is it was settled. The city has no further liability, perceived or otherwise. The case, from what I saw, seems to be de minimis, right, in terms of amounts. Okay, okay, good. Anyone else?
Council President.
I'm sorry, Councilman Love.
Yes, thank you. Steve, this is not directed at your comment. It just sparked my thinking based on some other comments that was made today and that's always made. Administration, I take my hat off to you guys and I'm going to continue to pray for you and the mayor. Because I don't know if this is legal to say, but we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. 663 sat desolate for about 30 years. This city, through the previous administration, carried on by our administration that's here now, decided to try to do something to rectify that building to make it appeasable for sale. No one was going to buy a 100-year-old building full of asbestos. So investment had to be made. And from what I understand, and this is a question for you, Mr. Business Administrator, because I know it happens with houses and private property. You sell your private property based on what it appraised for, not based on what it can be once a developer gets it and transforms it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So it's hard to determine and it's hard to negotiate prices saying, okay, this piece of property is appraising for $1 million, but you can put, or what you're going to propose to do here can make 50 million. So we want half of that. Is that even legal to do?
Yeah, I don't know what bank will even fund that, to
Okay.
be honest with you.
Because the comments earlier, it struck me like to say, so should a city, right? If we were to purchase the tracks, what would it cost us in the neighborhood of Mr. Fernandez, that area around the tracks, if we were to purchase them ourselves?
The railroad tracks?
Yes.
Well, just so you know, and I'm glad you brought that up, that was done as a public bid.
Mhm.
So the appraisal was a lot higher, but because it was done by the IRS, so the city had no involvement at all with the bidding process. It was done completely by the IRS. They decided to go under whatever the appraisal was, but it's significant. I mean, it's acres of land that is there, and the public was allowed to bid on it.
And what would that equate it to in terms of tax dollars for the residents if we were to secure that significant piece of property at that exorbitant price?
Well, so roughly at the time, you're probably looking at about $1 million an acre, and it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 acres. So if it was market rate, you're looking close to $6 million. Let's say there's a depreciation because the strip of, and I know you got me technical now, the strip of land may not be as developable. That's probably why the city got it as significantly less than a million per acre when we bought it at $1.5 million. You're still looking at a couple $1 million.
The point that I'm trying to make to the public is that, one, we're not in the business of development, the city themselves. And to grab property and hold on for the maximum dollar is risky. And maximum meaning waiting until it appraised for more. Properties and do depreciate. And when we get this property, it's in hopes that we make something from it. We can't determine what developers are going to do with the property when they get it, nor is it legal for us to say, okay, now, again, I'm going to be repetitive, that you're going to put 100 units on there. Now we think we should have more. And as you say eloquently, the banks won't. So I just wanted to make that point because it gets a little frustrating when individuals feel that they want to grandstand and not tell the truth about how property and how things are done, and particularly when they are developers themselves. But that's another story. Also, Steve, this is directed to you. This in reference to parking variances, and I appreciate you, your honesty. You're right. It was very rare that you missed the zoning meeting. I remember those days, nearing about 16, 17 years ago now. And we've always done parking variances. That's nothing new. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Fernandez can correct me, it's permissible by the land use laws. So it's not something that this municipality does in isolation and says, okay, we're going to just start giving parking variances and doing creative things for developers who are bringing good product in terms of adequate housing to our community. So I just wanted to say that that part of it. And we can't get caught in the weeds because of some variances. The good outweighs a few parking spaces. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman?
Sorry.
Thank you, Council President. I just kind of piggyback on what Dr. Terrence Love mentioned. These lands that are being discussed, especially the train tracks, I mean, we know what that was conducing. I mean, there was nothing but homeless back there, a lot of crime being conducted, and it's now going to create ratables for the city, correct? So I think this council has really worked hard on the mayor and the administration to create a livable city, a city where, I mean, ratables, lands that were not put to use are being put to use, where families can comfortably live. I mean, that side of downtown, a lot of people were living there because they probably had no choice. But I'm sure now that they see the transformation, they're enjoying it. I mean, anyone who comes from Garfield into Passaic can see that it's a place that is becoming lively. I mean, those of us that were born and raised here in the city of Passaic can see the transformation. So, I mean, sometimes it's just like Councilman Love said, damn if you do, damn if you don't. I mean, at some point, I mean, I would love to see people come more often, not only during times where there's special stuff going on, or these people that want to bring up what's happening. I mean, we had a huge stand of people here when that was pretty exposed, when we were doing the land swap. And we had citizens and we heard their concerns, and that's why things kind of shifted. I would have loved to see those faces that were present here today around at that time, especially with their expertise. So just needed to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Let me add my voice briefly to my colleagues, and I know that Joe and Chaim and Daniel are all of us are united in the same thing, and that is that it's almost like things are so good that someone's got to find something bad. Our parks have never been more beautifully kept than they are today. We've got schools being built all over the place, new schools replacing 100-year-old schools. Crime is down, and let's not forget that we live just a few miles from a place where crime is outrageous at best. We have a government which is working with all of its disparate branches, working clearly and closely together for the benefit of all. We've got participation of the public in any number of areas. And it seems as if people are, well, let's find the bad part. There seems to be some corollary, and I can't quite figure it out. Can't quite figure it out. I've never seen Passaic look as good as it does. I've never seen a balance sheet as positive as this one is. I've never seen things going on to the extent that they are. So God bless those people who prefer to find glasses half empty than half full. Do we have anyone else on the line?
Councilman Schwartz wants to speak.
Councilman Schwartz.
Yes, just, I mean, I think that Councilman Love really nailed it on the head. The city is not in the real estate business. The city has a responsibility to make sure that every property is doing its best to further the master plan, to further the city, whether that means that it's being used for the city as a park or in any other capacity, or whether the city is doing what it can to get it onto the tax rolls. There were various outlandish suggestions over the course of this evening that the city may not have acted properly on certain applications. I mean, 663, the city wanted to get that back on the tax rolls. That was not going to happen with asbestos in the building. The city was not interested in making a profit on it per se. It was interested in getting the building into use. With the train tracks, there were problems which the city needed to resolve. The city doesn't give things away. It tries to put in what's a fair settlement. That there's a process for that. There are appraisals done, which dictate what the floors are, which dictate what the deal structure is. But at the end of the day, the city isn't in the real estate business. We try not to lose money when we're trying to effect something. If we make a couple of dollars, that's great, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get the property to do what we need it to do. And the city has been very successful at that. Some people, such as some of the earlier speakers, may not agree with some of the projects that are approved, but each project is approved to further the master plan is the term that's used, but what does that mean? To further making sure that each piece of property is as productive as possible, enhances the area, makes the city a better place. And yes, sometimes there are compromises made. Sometimes the parking is what we would ideally like it to be. We don't sell parking spaces. That's not what the parking in lieu of the payment in lieu of parking is. It has nothing to do with the application. It is not criteria which can or should be used to pass an application. If an application happens to pass, they're going to pay the fee, but that's irrelevant to the application. The purpose of the application of the panel is to get the property to do its fullest and whatever form that takes. And I think the city has been doing a spectacular job of that. But as Councilman Love said, the city is not in the real estate business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Monk would like to speak.
Councilman Monk.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to point one other thing out. It was touched on, but it wasn't emphasized, and that is, I think if you take a bird's eye look at the city, you'll see that the administration has strategically targeted different areas of the different communities of the whole city, around the whole city. The redevelopment to give a new streetscape and enhance different areas that eventually will bridge together. At times, it's even worthwhile losing money on a property just to jumpstart any specific area of the town, and then that creates more development to the next property and to the next property. I had the privilege of getting a tour of 2 Market Street yesterday. I promised the developer I would come down right a few months ago. I finally did it yesterday. And I must say that the vision that the administration had with that property, I mean, that property should be showcased. To take a property in that area and to do that, and it was just amazing outcome there, and it's happening right there. Now the next property is being developed, and now the next property right after that now is proposed plans to take it down and put up a beautiful structure on the water. So if you take that bird's eye look, you'll see that the administration is hitting many different areas and with the goal that eventually it'll all come together, it'll reach together, and it's really to benefit the city as a whole in terms of what the city could look like in the potential near future.
Thank you, Councilman. We have anyone else on the line?
No, sir.
Very good. If there's no one else on the line who'd like to speak, is there a motion, please, to close public hearing?
So moved, Council President.
Motion and second. Roll call, please, close public hearing.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We're on the agenda. Roman numeral 7, ordinances for second and final reading. Hearing is required. Number 1, proposed ordinance 2381-23, an ordinance adopting the redevelopment plan for blocks 2173, lots 9, 12, 14, 19, and 26 in the city of Passaic, New Jersey, corresponding to 813-819 Main Avenue, 821 Main Avenue, 823 Main Avenue, 254 Oak Street, and 258-268 Oak Street. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call to open public hearing.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the council is contemplating proposed ordinance 2381-23. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this item and this item only?
Seeing no hands, I move to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion and second to close. Roll
Coun-
call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, is there a maker, please?
Move.
Yeah,
Second.
Council President, I do have a question. If I may, Council President.
Councilman Monk, please.
Yeah, thank you. In this ordinance regarding parking, I know this is discussed numerous times tonight about parking, but it has in there that as long as there is parking that is secured within 500 feet of the site, would suffice. And my question is this something that is specific to this plan? Or is that a state guideline that as long as there's parking within 500 feet of the property, that's considered like, like parking on site that would not need any type of variance, as a parking variance?
Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, so legally, they're allowed to have off-site parking facilities. What we tried to do is limit the distance of those facilities so that if there was another lot, let's say, that was picked up that might not be part of all these lots, that could be considered. It's not uncommon that it happens. I can tell you, looking at the properties, that I don't believe that's going to be the case here. That is general language that we do add just to make sure they do not try to have it, a mile away and say this will be part of the property. Even though I could tell you that the board members don't buy it, but I'd rather make it clear that they're not going to do that, as well as the parking requirement for this plan is consistent with the residential site improvement standards of the state of New Jersey, with very little difference.
Right. So then,
Councilman Monk.
yeah. So then, 500 feet seems pretty far. To encourage people to park in a parking lot as opposed to park on a street where it will, create a parking issue with other residences that live in the area. And 500 feet is quite a bit. No one's going to park 500 feet away. I can understand, 100 feet, 200 feet. Why would we even initially allow 500 feet in a redevelopment plan?
So it doesn't go farther than that, right? So it doesn't go farther than that. And again, this wouldn't be parking on the street. This would be like a lot or something that they would use to accommodate their parking. Again, legally, there's nothing to stop them from it. So if this was silent, we didn't even bring it up on the plan because, other plans didn't have it. Nothing would preclude them from using 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet. I could tell you just as a gauge, when you're looking at 500 feet, it's not, it might be average about I want to say like a 2.5 minute walk. So as an example, from Passaic Avenue, when we did the bus terminal here on Passaic Avenue, walking to McDonald's, because we want to make sure everybody gets their Big Macs, is a 5 minute walk, which is significantly longer than 500 feet. So we tried to
No,
cap it.
I understand. Right, but it's the reason why we obligate a developer, anyone, you need parking, is so that there's no overflow on street parking, which creates a quality of life issue of other people that live in the area. Right? And I think 500 feet, no one's putting their car 500 feet away and walking 2-3 minutes, whether.
Councilman, are you there?
He froze, I believe.
Councilman Monk, can you hear us?
They go before a planning board to get some type of, zoning passed, changes, or by having this 500 feet in there, it sounds like as long as he meets that requirement, he's good to go. It's off-site. And it's not really realistic of helping the area.
Board. Well, so as an example, right? If our parking deck is built here across the street, right, and there's a development that's happening there, and they can show that they're purchasing the residential parking permits for those residents, the board can accept that as complying with their parking requirement. That's the intent of this. And everything written on here, it's items that can be done anyway, right? We're just identifying them. It is very common that a 10-year lease be provided to the board members to show that they have an agreement for the parking, and the board has accepted that as a reasonable accommodation for the parking. So none of this is like, out of the sky. It's just, we've actually just written it down.
So let me ask you this question. The fact that it's written down, does that mean that if there is a parking lot within 500 feet, then this developer would not need a variance?
If they come with a 10-year lease agreement, that they made arrangements that those parking spaces are for them, then your answer is yes. The mere fact that it's there doesn't just mean that they're allowed to get the variance. There has to be proof that they're going to be providing that after testimony and the board's analysis, right?
Gentlemen, forgive me, Councilman, Mr. Fernandez, I have an open vote right now, and I'm more than exceeding my ability to maintain that vote. So if there's any concluding remarks on this issue, I'd appreciate if they could be given at this moment.
Okay, I will. I just don't see how 500 feet. I will make the statement. I think 500 feet away from a development is not really a parking that serves that development, and it's really giving a developer the ability to build something that without parking, and that's my concern.
Okay, Councilman, I would be more than happy on behalf of your colleagues, both yours and mine, to schedule in our next meeting a discussion on this very subject for 10 or 15 minutes. I would be more than happy to entertain such a proposal from you, but I need to go forward with tonight's agenda. Okay. Did you want to reserve at our next meeting 15 minutes, Councilman, to discuss this issue?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, sure. Mm-hmm.
Very good. Madam Clerk, if you could please put that on the agenda after hearing the citizens, that the council will entertain in open session the discussion on that issue. Meanwhile, Councilman, I believe you are recorded as a yes vote on this proposed ordinance 2381. 23. Is that correct?
I'll vote yes for now, yes. Yes.
Very good, thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please continue the roll call?
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. The ordinance has passed. Number 2, please, proposed ordinance 2382-23, an ordinance amending the designation of restricted parking for disabled persons by New Jersey license plate number. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
Move.
Motion
Second.
and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the council will be deliberating proposed ordinance 2382-83. If there's anyone who would like to address the council on this motion and this motion only. And for the benefit of those present, there are currently 408 handicap parking spaces. There will be 409, an increase of 1 as a result of this ordinance if passed.
Seeing no hands, I move to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please, to close.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, is there a maker, please?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We are up to
Communication.
matters of considered routine in nature. I'm sorry, forgive me, please. Under communication, Roman numeral 8, we have 3 items, 3, 4, and 5. Are there any questions on items 3, 4, and 5? Hearing none at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept items 3, 4, and 5?
So move.
Second.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We just did 3 to 5, correct?
Yes.
Good deal. On items 6 through 10, are there any questions, please? These items to be considered routine in nature. Are there any questions on 6 through 10? Seeing none, is there a motion, please, to accept 6 through 10?
Move it.
Motion
Second.
and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We're on to resolutions, Roman numeral 9. Number 11 is a resolution authorizing closed executive session of the council. Susie, do we need special? Do we need executive session? Thank you. Mr. Fernandez?
No, Council President.
Members of the council? Okay, if we can look then to items 12. Items 12 through 31. Are there any questions, please, on resolutions 12 through 31?
Yes, Council President.
Councilman Monk.
Yeah, and resolution 19, 20, and 21. It seems these are repairs. One of these actually goes back to an emergency repair done in February of 22, a year ago. Just wondering why we're approving now repairs, emergency repairs from a year ago.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Fernandez, can you help
Yeah,
us?
it was our engineering department catching up with all the repairs that were done. There were a number of them, and as the council's aware, we've done several of them. So this was one company specifically that they had to catch up on the billing, so they submitted it now.
So they were not paid yet?
That's correct.
Did they charge us interest?
Wow.
No. No, because they
deal.
keep doing, so the good thing is that we do, there's a number of them that bid all the time, so they've gotten work from us, so they weren't as inclined to charge us any extra for putting on the emergency.
Good deal.
Council President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor, sir.
Mr. Administrator, if you can just share, have we seen this occur during COVID with some backlogs of payments?
Absolutely, especially during COVID and transitions in the engineering department, as the council knows, with the new firm that is now there, catching up.
Thank you for bringing light to that, Mr. Mayor. Any questions, please? Hearing none, is there a motion, please, to accept all resolutions from 12 through 31?
So move.
Motion
Second.
and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Roman numeral 10, ordinances for introduction and first reading. Proposed item 32, an ordinance amending the designated restricted parking for disabled persons by New Jersey license plate number. May we have a motion, please, to sit down for second and final reading at our meeting of February 21?
Move.
Second.
Motion and second, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Number 33, please. An ordinance amending Chapter 295 of the Code of the City of Passaic entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Article 12, Schedules, Section 20, Schedule 1, Parking Prohibited at all times, to include a portion of 3rd Street. Is there a motion, please, to sit down for second and final reading at our meeting of February 21?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Number 34, please. Proposed ordinance amending Chapter 295 of the Code of the City of Passaic entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Article 12, Schedules, Section 20, Schedule 1, Parking Prohibited at all times, to include a portion of Dwaz Line Road. Is there a motion, please, to accept for set down for second and final reading at our meeting of February 21?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Before getting into the payment of bills, it is my understanding, and thank God for the city clerk, that our March meeting is scheduled, March or April meeting, ma'am?
It's the April 25th meeting needs to be rescheduled.
April 25th was scheduled for our meeting that, however, corresponds to the same day as school board elections, which obviously we don't want to in any way take away from, on the contrary. So at our next meeting, if we could ask you, before next meeting, if we could ask you to correspond with the clerk to get dates that are more convenient, but certainly within that small relative period of time. Having said that, we're up to Roman numeral 11, payment of bills. Are there any questions or comments on the bills as provided by the clerk? Seeing no hands, is there a motion, please, to accept the bills?
Move it.
Motion
Second.
and second, roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Administrators report, Mr. Fernandez.
And not this time, Council President.
Mayor, are you still on with us?
Yes, I am.
God bless. May we have some comments from you, sir?
No, nothing necessarily new to report. I went off a few times. We wished my 11-year-old a happy birthday. We blew out the candles. He was excited and he had a wonderful day. I will say that I'm very excited. I am more excited now than I can recall being in any way excited over the last 10 years for what's to come. I look forward to the next few months. I admit, and I hope that that everyone will get to see this afterwards. Those who were here earlier and those who will tune in via Facebook and Zoom. I am reinvigorated and excited about everything that's to come over the next few months and the next few years. People should be proud of the work that's been done by members of this council, by the business administrator, by directors, by the attorneys, by those who volunteer on boards. And I'm going to leave it at that. Council President.
Would you mind, Mr. Mayor, if I took the liberty to include your name front and center at the top? Done.
In terms of,
I believe I have a unanimous vote, Mr. Mayor, and I don't believe you can veto that even if you'd like to.
oh, understood.
Motion and second. Is there any other business that this has that is before this council is properly advertised in the Herald News and other papers? Seeing none, is there a motion, please, to adjourn? Motion second, please. Motion second to adjourn. Roll call to adjourn, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for your participation, ladies and gentlemen.